Good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode of Wicked Sip, Trip, and Flip.
So today's video is going to be a little different. We're going to be actually doing a beautiful country garden themed cottage style craft this morning that's going to be perfect for your spring and Easter decor. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn on that little notification bell so you're notified whenever I post a new video. All right, so let's get started with this project. All right, so I have my supplies laid out here. I'll kind of go over quickly what I have that we're going to be using to make this project. First of all, you're going to need a vintage book. Now I picked this one right here. It's a nice thick book. This one is about 2 inches thick. So it's a nice thick old book, the Complete Home Improvement Handbook. It does have some wear on the pages, so I don't mind using this. It's not a book that I would actually probably ever use or read, so I thought it would be a perfect size to make this project. Then you're going to also need a handful of faux flowers. Now I got all of these from the Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is hit or miss, I find, with their flowers. I found a couple picks of these ivory rose colored, very light pale pink colored roses. So I picked up 2 of those. I picked up a few other picks. They're on the nicer side. I find some of the faux flowers at Dollar Tree can be very fake looking. Some of them are on the nicer side. This one right here is called a pom-pom. I loved the pink coloring of it, and I liked the plastic looking leaves, very vintage looking. So I did grab, I think, a couple of those. And then I picked up, these are, this is called gypso. This one is called boxwood. This one right here is another boxwood. So there's a white boxwood and then a pink boxwood. And all of these were on the nicer side. And then I just picked up this little branch with the little fuzzy, not cattails, but with those little fuzzy pieces. Those are just called blooming branch. So I thought those looked nice together. They're kind of just neutral colors, a little bit of pinks. I thought that would work really well with my coloring scheme this spring. So I'm gonna set those aside. I also picked some fabrics. Now I have this beautiful floral piece of fabric in those beautiful rose colors. There's a little bit of blue in here, lots of kind of greens and cream colors. I thought this fabric would be beautiful for spring decor. So I don't have a very big piece of it. It's just kind of a small square, maybe 15 by 15 inches. Again, you only need enough to cover your exterior of your book, because that's what we're going to be doing with the fabric. So nothing huge, just a small piece of fabric that you're gonna like the coloring of. And then I also have a piece of lace. This is some ivory colored lace that I thought would work well on the binding of the book. Okay, then in addition to that, I just have a few different glues. I have ModPodge matte. I have a Uhu stick, which I just started using these and I really like them for paper crafting. And then of course I have my Fabrifix. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what part of the fabric that I want to use as the cover of my book. Now, mind you, you're going to see some of the cover depending on how you use this arrangement. So pick fabrics or pick pieces that you're going to enjoy seeing as part of decor in your home. So I thought this floral would be really nice on the cover, and then it's going to wrap around the back side as well. So I do have some of this blue flower. So I thought that this piece right here would work really well, but I don't need all of this fabric, so it needs to get trimmed down just a little bit. So basically what I am doing is I'm making sure that I have about an inch overhang over the edge of my book, as you can see here. So when I place it on, I have about an inch that's going to fold over, because we're going to need that to wrap around the edges. But then I don't need all of this extra on the bottom, and I don't need all of this extra on the top. So again, I'm going to cut just a little strip at the top, just a little tiny strip, because I'm going to rip it. And again, I'm going to leave about an inch overhang from the top, and I'm going to do the same at the bottom. So just a little snip on both sides, top and bottom, just so that it leaves about an inch. And then we're just gonna go ahead and tear that strip off the top. And I always save all of my scraps for other crafts, or I might even use this as some sort of a decor or bow or something on this project. So, and then we'll tear the bottom off. So now we have a nice strip of fabric that will cover the entire front and back of our book. All right, so there is my piece that's gonna cover my book. I'm gonna set that aside. I'm going to take my book and I'm gonna take my ModPodge with a little sponge, because now we're gonna start wrapping this book. Now I'm just starting with the front cover, and I'm basically putting a good coating of my ModPodge all over the front cover of my book, making sure to pay attention to the edges and the little seam here, or the little portion where the book opens and closes, because that's where you want your fabric to stick really good there, because we will be having this book open for display. So again, just going around this front cover with a good amount of the ModPodge, just like that. And then I'll set this aside, and we'll take our fabric that we want to use on our cover, and we're just gonna place that right down into that ModPodge, making sure that you leave that inch overhang, pushing it right down into that ModPodge, and pushing that fabric right down into that seam and on the edges. Make sure you have it nice and flat. If you want to use like a flat edge tool or a bone folder, that's always helpful to get out any air bubbles. All right, I'm gonna fold this up. I'm gonna put my book up right like this, and we're gonna work on the spine and do the same thing. We're gonna go right over the spine, paying close attention to those edges. Get that ModPodge on there, really a nice good layer of ModPodge. Make sure down the bottom and the top. And then we're gonna wrap our fabric just like we did on the front. We're gonna wrap it around that spine. And again, make sure you get it all in the edges. And push it down nice and tightly. And we're gonna do the exact same thing on the back of the book. All right, so as you can see, I have my fabric all on the front, on the spine, and on the back of my book. I've used my bone folder to just kind of push that fabric right down into the crevices where the book opens and closes. And I'm gonna let this dry for probably a good 15 to 20 minutes closed, just like this, just so that the glue has time to harden up and set, so that when I open up the book, it's not gonna create any air bubbles within the fabric. All right, so once your book has had a little time to dry, we're gonna open up the front cover, and we're gonna work on folding these edges into the book. So I am gonna take some sharp little scissors, and I am just going to cut off a corner of the fabric just like that, so we don't have any heavy seams on the inside. And we'll do this to the top as well, so the bottom and the top of the front cover. Now, as you can see, I'm not going all the way to the corner. I'm leaving about 1/4 of an inch of fabric here, just so that way our corners don't poke through. We want our corners to stay nice and covered, but I don't want this bulky extra pieces of fabric bulking up in the corners. All right, so just like we did on the front cover, we're gonna take our ModPodge again with our foam brush, and I'm gonna go right along the edge of our book, and we're gonna fold in that fabric into that ModPodge. And again, I'll use my bone folder just to help kind of flatten it out. I'm using the flat side of a bone folder. This isn't a bone folder. This is actually a plastic one, but whatever you have that you can use that's flat. And we're just gonna push that down. And then we're gonna take these side edges, and just how we cut off the corners here, we're gonna make a little notch on the side. Just a little snip right where the book opens. So that way we have, so that this will fold in nicely and it won't create a crease. So we're gonna do that on the top and bottom as well. So just do a little snip kind of on an angle. So I'm doing an angle like this so that when I close it, my fabric doesn't get bunched up in this fold. And we'll take our Mod Podge, and again, just a nice coat right on that bottom, and we'll fold that fabric up into the Mod Podge. Now, it's okay if you get it on your fingers. I kind of use my finger to kind of push that Mod Podge right in to the fabric. It helps hold, you know, kind of blends those seams right into the paper. And we'll do the same at the top. Put a little bit of Mod Podge along the top. And I'm going right over my side seam here of fabric. And push that right up in. You want it nice and tight. You don't want it coming loose. Right, so I'm gonna do this same thing on the back of my book. Now you can see I have a nice seam, top and bottom and side on the front cover of the book. So we'll close that and we'll flip it around, and we're gonna do the same thing on the back of the book. All right, so now you should have your cover nice and covered and your back cover, and you should have nice seams all the way around, but you do have this little piece of fabric that sticks out on the spine on the top and the bottom of the book. So what we're gonna do with this is we are just going to trim this down, and I'm just using some very sharp scissors, and I am just trimming off almost all, or as close to the book as possible, of this little fabric, so that I only have a little bit of fabric left at the top and bottom. And we'll take our Mod Podge and we're gonna glue that rest kind of down to the spine. There. So we're getting those little strips off, and then like I said, we're gonna take some more Mod Podge and we're just gonna go in and kind of glue this right down. Use your fingers, you can kind of just push it in. And it's okay if it gets on the pages a little bit, that's fine. I'm just kind of gluing that little piece down just so that it doesn't hang out, flop out. So yeah, just use your fingers to kind of just push that fabric into the top portion of the spine, just like that. But now we're gonna add some lace detail to the spine as well. And I'm gonna use this beautiful ivory colored lace that I have here. Any type of lace is fine, or you don't even have to do a lace. I just think that the lace will be a pretty touch on it. So again, just like I did with the fabric, we're going to pick the lace that you want, obviously, and I'm gonna use, so this lace that I'm using has a flat edge and a scalloped edge, so my plan was to use the scalloped edge kind of on the outside. Let me go to the front of my book here. Here's the front of my book. I'm gonna use this scalloped side of my lace on the outside portion of my spine, and then I'll have this flat piece on the inside. So I'm just figuring about how much I need. And also, when I'm laying this on here, I want to make sure that that it wraps around my spine enough. So I'm going to cut to about right here. I'm going to just take my sharp scissors and just cut off what I need. Just like that. And again, with my Mod Podge, I'm going to go right over my cover, my fabric cover of my book with my Mod Podge. And I'm making sure to go around the spine as well on the backs, on the where the lace will lie on this side of the book. And I'm gonna set that lace right down into that Mod Podge. Now this is where your Fabrifix comes in handy. I'm gonna use some Fabrifix to help attach this lace so it's secure, so it doesn't come undone, especially on this back side where the seam is. Now it will lay into the Mod Podge, but I wanna make sure that it doesn't come undone. So I'm gonna take my Fabrifix and right along this flat part, I'm gonna just do a little strip of Fabrifix. And we'll stick that Fabrifix right down in there. This is a nice permanent hold. I don't want it going anywhere. I want it being nice and strong. And I'm also gonna do that along the edges in the corner of the book. So top and bottom, I'm gonna go right along those edges with that Fabrifix. All right, so now we have this beautiful lace covering on the front, and we're gonna do the exact same thing on the back, because like I said, you will see this, so I wanna make sure that the whole book is really pretty. So again, I'm gonna just take what I need. Cut off the excess. We use our Mod Podge to do a nice coat. Now I'm just gonna take my scissors and just trim off any excess of this lace, just so that I don't have pieces hanging over my book. I want it nice and clean. Okay, so there's that. Perfect. All right, so there is the cover to our gorgeous book. Now we can start working on the inside of the book. All right, so for the next step of this project, I'm gonna be using a little razor blade. These I can get at the Dollar Tree, and then I have a straight edge or a metal ruler, and then I also have a little cutting pad, and you can get these cutting pads like this at the Dollar Tree as well. So I am gonna take my book and I'm gonna sit it upright like this. And now how I determine what I wanna use for something like this is I wanna just take the center pages of the book. I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna take the center pages and I'm gonna actually clip them together with a little clip like I have here. So I just want a few pages in the center. I don't know, this is a big book, so there's probably 50 or so pages in here. I'm gonna open this up like this, holding my pages, and I'm gonna take my cutting pad and I'm gonna put it right down into the bottom section of these pages. And I'm gonna take my straight edge. Now there's no real science to this. You don't have to measure exactly, but I'm gonna start cutting some of these pages about halfway. So I'm gonna use my knife and we're just gonna start cutting some of these pages in half. And as we cut, I'm gonna pull the pages up and clip them to the top pages. And just continue cutting these pages right in half. So now we're gonna take all of our pages that are cut in half, like this, and the top portion of those pages, we're going to cut out of the book. So I'm gonna let that down. I'm gonna clip these together, and we're just going to, right along this seam here, we're just gonna cut these pages right out. All right, so now we have that whole top portion of those pages cut out of our book. Just gonna get rid of any little extra that I have here. So as you can see, now we have this bottom section of the pages still intact. I'm gonna clip those together with a little clip. All right, so the next step is where I'm gonna use my Uhu glue stick. I just started using these and I really like them. They're a permanent hold glue stick. So what we're gonna do with this is this is kind of a tedious process, but because we have so many pages here, I wanna start gluing some of these pages together. So I'm just taking my glue stick and gluing some of these pages together. So I'm gonna do about 5 pages glued together. So once you get 5 pages glued together like this, I'm just gonna pull them tight. So now it's like you only have one thick page. And I'm gonna continue doing that. So we'll skip a page, we won't glue these. We'll glue 5 more. Get those 5 and kind of hold them together. And continue doing this, and then again skip. Because we want to make basically thicker pages. So the easiest way I found to do this is to kind of hold the paper in between my 2 fingers here, my pointer and my middle finger, and take my glue stick and run it, and then just tip it down and catch the page in the glue like that. So that way it like picks your page up for you. And then once you get them all together, then kind of just squeeze them together like that and set it aside, and then pick your next page, hold it in between your fingers, pick up the next page. I mean, you'll figure out a process that works good for you. But I'm just trying to get this done as quickly as possible. All right, so now we have these groupings of thick pages in our center. And what we wanna do here is we wanna kind of divide these in half. It doesn't have to be exactly half, but I'm just picking about half of the ones that I have here, like this. And I'm gonna clip 1/2 to one side and 1/2 to the other side. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm starting with my very first page here. I'm gonna go back and take my Fabrifix glue for this, and right along the top edge of my first thick grouping of pages, I'm gonna just do a little strip of Fabrifix glue just along the top, and I'm gonna fold that in and push it right down into the page itself, so it makes this little loop. Just like that. And then we're gonna fold that over, push that aside. And we're gonna do the next one, the next little grouping of pages. Just a little strip of Fabrifix glue along the top. We're gonna fold it over and glue it into itself. So we're making these little kind of loops, as you can see, like this. So just fold that over into itself, and then keep doing it until we get to the center point. Now these ones, as you can see, I'm folding, the ones on the left side, I'm folding to the left. When we get to the other side of the halfway point, we'll fold in the opposite direction. All right, so I have all of my pages folded down into this beautiful little fan of a section in the center of our book. Now this is going to be the holder that's going to hold all of our full flowers, because our book is going to sit upright like this, and then the flowers are going to pop out of this fan-like structure in the center of the book. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm working on my faux flowers. I have my little wire snips here because I'm going to be cutting these flowers down to a more appropriate size for this project. I'm just snipping off little sections of flowers from each one of the arrangements that I have here. I don't want this big portion at the bottom. Obviously, if you're doing a bigger book, you could use the bigger sections, but I'm just using smaller pieces. So I'm just cutting with my little wire snips all of these pieces, and I'm cutting off all of my tags. All right, so now that I have all of my pieces cut down to size, I kind of varied the sizes just so you know what I've done. These ones are about between 6 and 7 inches. I have some, yeah, that's about 7 inches. I did some shorter ones also that are like 5 inches. But just trying to keep the size within the size height of the book. This book is 8.5 inches tall. So I don't want them sticking way out the top, but I want them kind of coming out a little bit. So between 5 and 7 inches is probably a good size for the flowers for this size book. All right, so I have my hot glue warming up, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start arranging. And to do that, I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue and put a little bit of hot glue right on the stem, and I'm just going to start sticking some of these flowers right down into these little looped openings of our book, because this is going to be like our holder for our arrangement. So again, there's not really a rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to kind of, you know, do it as I go. So just sticking pieces here and there. I'm going to try to keep some of the larger pieces in the back and maybe some of the smaller pieces in the front. But again, just putting hot glue right on the stem of these flowers and then just kind of sticking them in place. And then we'll kind of fill in some spots with other pieces. Just do this until we like how it looks. All right, so as you can see, I'm getting this arrangement filled in nicely here. I'm kind of just trying to figure out where I want to put things, filling in blank spaces, and you know, trying to like just keep it confined within the book, which I think it's looking really beautiful. I'm loving how this one has turned out. Found that whenever I'm doing something like this, I tend to decorate with odd numbers. And so like I'm using odd numbers of flowers. I'm kind of just arranging them almost like in a triangle. There's a lot of different tips and tricks that you can use when you're decorating an arrangement like this, but honestly, it's just going to take practice. And if you don't like how something is, you know, pull it out and try it again, cut down pieces to make them smaller. I'm using a lot of these little twigs, just kind of poking them kind of in the background a little bit, just for some height. I don't want to go too high off of the book, but I do like the look of these like little twigs popping out with the little fuzzy pieces on them. And also, if you can't get it in a spot, you might need to just open up the page just a little bit and move things around, have things coming out from the bottom underneath. So again, just putting a little glue on that, and then I'm just kind of like lifting up and then finding a spot underneath where I can put something. But yeah, just making your arrangement to fit your style. Okay, so this last step isn't really necessary, but I like how it just finishes off the book. I have these little gold page corners or cover corners, and I am going to just open them up with some pliers. Now you can get these on Amazon. I will link them in the description below. I use them for a lot of my journals that I make, and you're just gonna push them on the corners of your book. And then you're just going to clip them or pinch them shut with your pliers. Again, this isn't necessary, but it does finish off the book and makes it just look just a little bit more, I don't know, decorative and finished. So I'm gonna do that for all 4 corners of my covers. Again, just opening these up slightly. Because this is wrapped in fabric, the corners are a little on the thicker side, so you do have to open them up. But then just pinch them shut over that fabric. And then your piece will be ready to display. All right, so here is the finished book. I have it on one of my shelves. So there's the back side of the book. And here is the front side right here. And obviously if I had it in a different spot, you could see the cover a little bit better. You could actually use it as a centerpiece on a table, but I think this came out so cute. I love it. I love the use of the vintage books. Obviously you don't have to use a vintage book. You could go to Dollar Tree and grab a Dollar Tree novel type book and do this exact same project with all Dollar Tree supplies. But yeah, I just think this is so gorgeous for like a cottage, Victorian cottage style, you know, French cottage style house. Very, very, very cute. Hope you guys enjoyed this DIY. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, and we will see you again in the next video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.